Yeah, all on the record now. Oh, welcome. We'll go ahead and get started then. It's 6 o'clock. I don't have the opening reflection up, but I'll just say it off the top of my head that we're here as stewards of land, and as such, we need to be cognizant of everyone who lives upon the land and has ever lived upon the land, and that includes the indigenous and everyone from the homeless to the home. So with that in mind, we can get started. We'll start off with the introduction of the board members.
Overall, homeowner, resident,
Kayaker.
landowner.
Hi, Emily Colwell, renter and resident. Sammy Burrows, renter and resident.
Scott Hesley, representing the Business Association, I'm also a renter.
Paul Coogan, chair, and homeowner.
Alan Hartzela, homeowner.
Francis Pritchett, homeowner, this was the Nancy Lawler, resident. I have the word and part of the
Soderberg, resident homeowner.
Okay. Next up is agenda setting and modifications. Do we have any proposed modifications to the agenda?
There's a potential action item that the group decided to act on. Having to do with the word canyon park.
I think we could put that into
The under the park and rec.
yeah, park and rec. Which I think is TBD on here. I'll put it back on park and rec. Right. Okay. No objections? Nope. Okay. Approval of the meeting minutes. They were attached in the invitation for today's email. And there's copies floating around.
I had a modification in the minute. My name spelled incorrectly, not a big deal, but it'd be great if it was.
We got hers. Yours right, but then, yeah.
Yeah, it's Emily is.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we have modifications to the attendance.
Yes. Francis, Scott, and Emily can not be present.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Brian Frater, resident.
Okay. Next 10. Yes, for the approval of the minutes. Okay. I mean, we talked about modifications already, so approval with modifications. All in favor? Any dissent, any abstains? One abstain? Okay. And any nays? Okay, that's passed. Treasurer's report.
So, no expenditure, I'm aware of, so it's still, it's $1,332 and 36.
Next up is non-agenda public comments. 2 minutes. We have several. I'll start with Alex Wong, is it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I think if you just stand generally close, this is our speaker for those who are online. We have actually let them into the room. So we have.
Do I speak into the speaker or?
Oh, it hears the room pretty well, but
It has a range of 15 feet away.
yeah, there you go. And you can see we have 3 people online. Have it.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Alex Wong and I am the data researcher for Ride SD. We're a transit advocacy group. And I would like to share with you how the automated people mover would benefit Normal Heights and just the vast majority of San Diego more than an airport trolley would. Because there's really 2 scenarios here. Scenario 1, just imagine that the airport trolley is built, right? You take the 215 or any bus that goes downtown and you go to Santa Fe Depot and you have to transfer. There's no really one-seat ride. The airport trolley is not going to come directly here, but then you have to wait up to 15 minutes for an airport trolley to take you to the airport. But scenario 2 is if the people mover is built instead, then you take the 215 to downtown to Santa Fe Depot and you only wait 2 minutes for a train to take you from the Santa Fe Depot to the airports. And people movers are actually trains. Like this people mover that Santa Fe is planning, I've looked into the budgets and this is something that you might find running around as an automated train in cities around the world, because cities around the world from Singapore to Tokyo, they use the same airport people mover technology used in places like DC, Dallas Airport and Miami airports, except they run it completely outside of the airport. So, which means that the people mover would be completely expandable past the airport and into neighborhoods like Midway, into Midway Rising to support all that transit-oriented development there. So it's not, the people mover is really not just about the airport. It can easily be kind of a light metro system, a subway that takes you outside the airport, except it comes every 2 minutes. And of course, waiting is really the worst part of the transit experience, and just reducing that wait time is going to attract a lot more people to transit. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there a website or URL that you can refer to for more information?
Well, currently, I mean, Ride SD, you can Google us and we have websites, but I do not have any presentations uploaded. But you know, I would be, it would be great if I could come here maybe next month and do a presentation.
Yes. You had a question?
I'm just gonna try to remember description of what it is, I've never heard of it. What is,
Oh, so a people mover, if you go, have you been to SFO Airport or Phoenix, just name a few, trying to name a few airports, or, okay, any airport where, you know, sometimes it's big and you have to take this train, this driverless train, you can turn it to, are you familiar with that?
I think I know it, right, so the driver was on wheels or it's on a track?
It is on wheels and it's on, okay, without getting into too much of the mechanical engineering behind it, well, it is a train and it is on wheels and it is,
With a bus?
no, it's bigger, it can carry more people than bus and it's on it's a fixed sky wheel system, so it really runs along a corridor unlike a bus system, but it really is really.
We have been to the, we've been.
Yes, it's full, well, yes, it's fully grade separated, dedicated right of way. Doesn't have to cross or mingle with car traffic now.
Thank you. We have a great curiosity and we would like to have you come back and do a presentation.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Do you want to come, you have a question or a statement?
I've been to Singapore and Tokyo.
Yeah.
And they had subways from the airport to the town.
Oh, yes.
And I and Singapore, they're beautiful high-speed trains. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's a bit different because there's the subway system of Singapore MRT in Singapore, but then there's also the Singapore light rail. And the light rail is kind of in the suburbs, not necessarily a place where most visitors would visit, but I have personally ridden the light rail in Singapore just out of curiosity. And the light rail, it's kind of acts like these feeder buses, except instead of feeder buses, they use people movers to kind of circulate around these neighborhoods that are pretty dense and mostly residential, and they get them to the nearest subway station. And in Tokyo, they have the Yurikomomi line, and it's technically separate from the subway, bit of a different technology, but it's mostly along a redeveloping waterfront.
Then we can look at the city. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's all, I just,
Okay.
I heard.
That's fine, thank you. We will definitely have you come back for a longer presentation. Were there other statements or questions from the room?
Do we have contact information, Alex?
Oh,
Do you have an email?
oh, yes, maybe I should write it down.
Yeah,
Write it on the signage.
On the sign sheet, yeah, we already have it. Next up was, John.
Hi, my name is John Smiskey. I'm a resident. I've done a very unscientific study around my neighborhood and other parts of Normal Heights over the last 3, 4, 5 months. And my overwhelming, is that the people who live in this area, and I imagine the rest of the city, had no idea actually what the ADU taking away from the water. And most of the people I talked to were in the opinion that granny flats were granny. And that the ADUs that they see and understand that are going to be built in the neighborhood are apartment buildings. And I've come to the conclusion that either the city or we didn't, or whoever didn't actually inform. These people weren't really informed or did not bother to check it out. They just said, somebody's talking about building granny flats. Okay, we're gonna build granny flats. Well, now they're coming to the realization that what's happening is not granny flats. And most of it I get from the middle-aged older people and the young people that I talk to.
Thank you. Gary.
I've been following a little bit, coming out of the rec council. A change in the configuration of the ranch on Route 15. When the plan, the 98 plan was put together, very specifically discouraged a through traffic route there. That's where the barricades came from. And now, for some reason, there seems to be some interest in changing that back on the part of the city. This would be a bad thing to do. There was an uproar 20-some years ago to get the barricades in place and stop that from happening, coming 40th Street into a raceway. I encourage you to take a look at that and contact and work with the people that live there who probably don't know what's going on, and what the implications would be for what is being discussed.
Thank you. Are there any others from the room? Yes, Jim.
For those of you who are lacking energy, Scott tells me that there are chocolate chip cookies out here. Right?
Yes.
And coffee and water.
Help yourself.
I already did.
Thank
I'm
you.
not gonna be shy. Is there time for one more?
Let me take care of the folks on Zoom. I've got one hand raised from Paul Jameson. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to just comment on the ADU policy. I get that folks, don't want to have ADUs that are more than one story in their neighbor's backyard. I think it's just, the state has this demand that the city of San Diego build 108,000 new units by 2029, and we're already well behind that pace. So does this do folks here have an alternative to that? Because that's just one tool of many. Some other tools like SB 10, other things that would have added density closer to transit lines have been opposed or defeated. So I understand it's hard to handle change in our neighborhoods, but I would really suggest going out and not just speaking to your neighbors, but talk to younger people who would like to live in the neighborhood, because they certainly can't afford to live in Normal Heights or in Kensington where I live. There's just no housing opportunities for them that are even close to affordable. And so we need, both, we need to use all the tools. And I know that the city potentially has a plan to add more housing via, sort of public money. That was defeated in 2020 when we tried to do that. So let's try to use every tool and let's try to accept some change. And hopefully we can make San Diego open to everyone and not just folks who live here already. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Do we have anybody else from the room or online?
Yes,
Yes,
can I speak without rising or?
no, that's fine. We can just speak up so that the Zoom can hear you up here, and as well as myself.
I've been told that's not my problem. I'd like to share a email exchange I had with our city council rep concerning street sweeping, which has kind of been my issue since I first moved into this neighborhood 15 years ago. Okay. May I read it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for the information. Street sweeping policy has been an interest to me since I moved to San Diego. Before that, street sweeping has just been the city, part of the city, living like trash collection, police and fire services. In 03, my street was swept month. I thought it was adequate in the neighborhood, and this year it was reduced by half. I began to investigate, went to the planning group, the parking commission, and other city meetings. Through these, I found the true value of a parking place on the street was between $10,000 and $40,000 in 03 dollars. That's when I first started investigating. Balance that against the value of street sweeping bids. We set aside a dirty street. Normal Heights is part of the Choyas Creek watershed, pet waste and auto pollutants all filter down into that delicate ecosystem. Perhaps a greater concern is there are more dust. There are many unpaved alleys that feed into the east-west street, everyday traffic, and more particularly heavy trash collection trucks bringing dirt and fine dust into the streets. The dust is thrown into the air by passing cars and trucks. Lawn services blow huge clouds into the air. Could this dust be a health hazard? As urban infill seems to be the theory the city is subscribing to, I have some suggestions that would serve the residents as well as other stakeholders. Street sweeping upgrades, regular routes with permanent signs, fines would cover the cost of the extra routes, and temporary signs placed by city employees in the internet, and east-west alleys with dirt entrances would benefit the most. Oh, by the way, our representative sent me a map showing that my street, which is Monroe, is literally blanked out. One block up, there is some street sweeping, and then of course, me, the next down, has street sweeping on a weekly basis. Let's see if I can take up again. Marked spaces to prevent parking waste. More active enforcement of abandoned vehicles and other parking rules. Code enforcement for currently required off-street parking, and pave the alleys. There's more, but the alleys, if I may digress from there, whatever's left of my time, stop me when I'm done. The alleys were paved with assessment district, and as the people who face the alley would add on and pay a portion of having it paved, but now the trash trucks that drive up and down, hardly any residents use the alley because the poor condition they're in.
You sound very knowledgeable on the matter. Would you be willing to come back and do a full presentation for us?
I'm trying to do 2 minutes, and
Yeah, I mean,
maybe Jim knows, I've been following this for 20 years.
and it sounds like it'd be worthwhile to educate us on the condition of our streets and alleys, along with how maintenance assessment districts and street sweeping and all the other services interplay together. I'd love to have you put something together on that.
Well,
Anyway, email me and we can.
Let me make just one comment.
Yeah.
On that, which is the essence. The alleys, not everybody has an alley, but the alleys tend to run north and south. And they dump out onto the east and west streets. And so the trash trucks come in the east and west streets, which are there's much less mileage in our area, tend to just get covered in dirt. And, you know, I know the bicycle coalition has a big influence. And I really don't see people riding on the bike trail on me. However, on my street, which is a nice, quiet, it's very narrow, it's just dirty. People are riding on it, kids walk to school. So,
Okay.
you know, it's just common sense and things that I mentioned. Probably the best thing that we could, I'll send you an email.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I'm not good at that.
I'm gonna move on to the digital communication monitoring. I did receive an email from a constituent in the neighborhood who was concerned that her neighbors were being thrown out of an apartment building. And Sarah has been in communication with Laura. Why don't you go ahead and speak to that?
So, resident of the building, which was in here. So basically, she told me that the property or the building was bought out by a new management company. And there was a lot of waste around the area. Basically, what happened, I contacted the environmental services department. They were able to remove the waste. In terms of the eviction that happened, we actually have no way of knowing whether they were illegal or not. I didn't have any of the tenants contact me, our office directly. But I did let the constituent know that if he happens to have any contact with the tenants, to let them know that there are legal services out there in case there were anything illegal happening. But that's the extent of our knowledge on it.
Do you happen to know the address offhand?
I know it's on Felton Street,
On Felton?
but
Okay.
I don't have the exact. And I think the new building was bought out by a property management called Wooding, something with a W. I mean, I can look at my phone, but yeah, basically, I know the environmental services department spoke with the new building manager about the lease, but that's extent of my knowledge.
That address was 4515.
Is it possible that SDG&E would know who the tenants were in order for someone to get in touch with them?
It's possible, I mean, I would have to ask, but again, I don't know if we are allowed to get like all the. But I mean, it's definitely, it's sad that everyone is.
Okay. We need to move on to our next item, which is a presentation on the permit search map. This is something that I was made aware of. It's available for public consumption recently. Let me make sure I've got everybody in the meeting room here. Okay. We'll include this URL in the meeting notes, and I'll be putting a link on our website as well. But this sort of solves the problem of, hey, there's something being built down the street, and I had no idea how to use Acela to look up the permit information. So within this map, we're looking at downtown. It does take a little while for the areas to fill in, so if you use it, just be patient, but here's Normal Heights. And it'll eventually fill in with the permit information for all the parcels in our neighborhood. Yes.
My name is Dan Whalen. I live on, the cul-de-sac over there. I was just curious, when did the, housing permits go from, or multifamily? My father built several units in the area years ago, and I have a couple left. Had more until 2008, but another story. But when did the, permits go from, I think it was 10 units max to skyscrapers?
I don't know personally, but
Yeah, so there's kind of a lot of legislation and changes that have happened over time, so it's kind of. I'll probably list a couple, but I'm sure I'm missing some, because it's really kind of been this layered approach because of the housing crisis we're in, so really. What it comes down to is your zoning, so zoning is really established as maximum height. And so over time, every year the city does a land development code update, sometimes heights can change with that. There's also, with the complete communities initiative, that was something that was approved, I think 2020. There's certain regulations that are on a statewide level that like establish new height limits. And that is because we need housing, and that's a statewide directive, so it kind of eliminates or changes your height restrictions based on one, how close you are to transit, or two, if you're building affordable housing. There's also, actually, just been so basically, you can kind of see I'm probably missing a bunch of them, but really it's just over time, there's been a bunch of different initiatives that have.
And in their wisdom, the city fathers or those who allowed these permits to increase building height have made good exception for, or make sure that we got plenty of parking. They wouldn't be taking parking spaces away from us in favor of other modes of transportation, would they?
So there is a statewide law, SB 743, that now there's 0 parking spaces required if you're in within
Right.
half mile transit. And then the city has their version of that too, sustainable development areas, which whole other parking situation, yeah.
When my dad was building apartments in the area, the rule was a parking space and a quarter for every bedroom.
Yeah, there's 0.
Not anymore.
Yeah, the municipal code does not have parking.
Yeah. So nobody's stuck.
If you're within certain distances of transit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a quick comment from Paul Jameson on the Zoom call. And then I'll get back to the map.
Yeah, I mean, parking minimums like the ones you're talking about are a big reason why we're in a housing crisis, right? So because you have to create so many parking spaces per unit, it makes the units much more expensive and therefore more unaffordable for people to live in. So one of the ways to make housing more affordable is to reduce those parking requirements. And then things like complete commute. And well, a big part of those parking requirements made it was sort of a zoning where it just said, okay, anybody who's middle or lower income won't be able to live in the neighborhood. That was kind of the intention of some of those parking requirements. I would just suggest to read a book called Paved Paradise that just really talks about how we've prioritized parking over housing for other people. And I'm just really disappointed to hear, you know, a 6 or 7 story building being called a skyscraper, because it isn't. We need to really take a different approach on housing and parking. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. I'm gonna go back into the technical here. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I would just like to say that there is an easier way to answer your question, sir, as far as when did this all happen? And there are people that disagree with me, but it happened over the last 3 or 4 years, thanks to coordination between our government officials, who happen to be mostly Democratic Party in the state and the city. And that is when it happened, and it's been, the housing crisis has been used as a reason to change all this. And I would also add that it's been done with little input from the general elected, I'm sorry, for the general population. But elected officials have assumed that they speak for a majority of people because they get elected. That's the way our system works. But it's really happened over the last few years. So you can explain it like it happened because we need housing, but parking is not what has caused the housing shortage in our city or state.
By the way, skyscraper is a relative.
It's a huge
term.
contributor to it. Again, I just suggest you read Paved Paradise. You know, please don't distort the truth here. Parking is a huge reason why these neighborhoods have become unaffordable, and many neighborhoods, the parking requirements make it unaffordable.
Okay, so, we are approximately here-ish. And if we click on any of these, I'm just gonna pick one at random. We get both the APN number, which is very handy. I've been having to use Zillow or Redfin to look up APN numbers. It has all the current information about what's going on and what has gone on in that property. So this project here, this project number, was created in 2016 for our electrical sub panel. So I haven't gotten into any of the filtering criteria on this, but it is very handy to be able to go into a map and say, oh, what's happening down the street, and actually be able to find the permit geographically.
What's that website you got there?
It is, let's see if I can get the San Diego.maps.arcgis.com. And the longer URL takes you to apps, instance, sidebar, index.html. And we'll be sure to include this on our website as well in the next week. That'll be at normalheightcpg.org. Okay. Next up is an update on the construction project at 35th and Adams. For that one, AKA the Mars project, I was hoping that the lead principal at INI Greenfield would be here to present updates on the project, because if it is going according to Greenfield's plans, they would like to break ground in January and start demolition. But that at this point is only a verbal. The permits have been approved, but have not been paid for. So until they've paid the fees, which are roughly $250,000, they can't make any other further changes at the site. I think that's about all I have right now on 35th. Yes.
Is there a description of after it's all completed? What's gonna be there?
Yes, there is. I could send you a URL or a description.
5, 7 stories, apartment building?
Seven, very quickly, it's 7 stories, 175 studio apartments under five, I think they're 500 square feet each, which gets around paying diffs to the tune of $2.5 million. There would be 100 parking spaces and 2 1,000 square foot retail spaces on the first floor. There's an interior courtyard, which, as far as I can tell, does not include public access.
Thank you. Is there's minimal parking?
There are 100 spaces for the building, and I believe that includes the retail spaces.
Oh, so not even one.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is I left a space for Sean Rivera to join us. Ben was looking into whether he could attend or not on his calendar. I don't see him in the room, but Sarah's here. That's fine. We always have an open invitation for him.
Like, not even next time.
Definitely. So I guess we'll do your Q&A up here further down. I just wanted a placeholder in case we wanted to do speaker slips or something if we came.
Okay.
So
I mean, if you have any questions as well, I can always relay it back.
sure. Okay. Actually, the next thing on the item is reports and updates. So District 9, Rivera. Take it away.
Stand up if that's easier.
Yes, please.
But my name is Sarah. I've actually taken over as representative from Ben Mendoza. And so if you have any concerns or anything about your neighborhood, please reach out to me. I can leave my card on the table. I don't have too many updates today. First one is just that the city is accepting applications to serve on the Commission on Police Practices. You can submit an application online. You can also nominate someone. And the deadline to submit is December 13th on Wednesday. And then my next update is that the mayor's housing action package will be coming back to council next week on December 12th. Now, is everyone familiar with the mayor's housing action package? So basically, it's a package of 10 wide-ranging housing policies, which include incentivizing bigger family housing, allowing for more homes on publicly owned land, expand the complete community program, and creates new anti-displacement measures. And so our office is carefully reviewing all of these policies to make sure the package aligns with the council president's values. And any questions? Yeah.
You mentioned anti-displacement measures.
Yeah.
Does that mean, what do you call it, anti-eviction measures?
It could be part of it. I can clarify. I do also just want to preface by saying I'm new, so any questions I can relay back to our housing policy expert, but I believe that includes one of them. But I can clarify.
And Francis.
Presentation of housing action plan, people, right? Will there or will there not be an allowance to build affordable housing elsewhere?
Let me look at my.
Off-site. In other words, taking the affordable housing and putting it in another neighborhood. Is that in the package or not?
So, well, I have like a short description I can read. So it's aimed at prioritizing, incentivizing the construction of attainable and family housing with waivers of development impact fees and ensuring integration and access to opportunities for residents of affordable housing when HAP 2.0 has been possible. Since that hearing, again, our office was working with the mayor's office to discuss the amendments, which are being incorporated and revised. But for any additional questions, I can ask Maya Lucas, who is our housing plan. But that's just the information I have on hand right now.
I believe, to clarify that, I believe if the news has not changed since like Friday, I believe that the requirement that additional housing be in the same building is no longer part of the package, or is not part of the package. However, there was an amendment offered by, I forget who, that was, I believe, accepted, to your point, that the affordable housing must be in a similar neighborhood or a similar, like, or up to the same like amenities and things like that. So that was I think the amendment that was offered.
That's gonna create such a gap between our social like groups in our community. That's all. Yeah. You're segregating classes.
I just want to make sure, we have people on the Zoom call, so Paul has his hand raised.
Yeah, I think ideally the affordable housing would be either in the same building or in the same neighborhood. It was disappointing that things kind of broke down over that. I think the argument that developers own the council members really doesn't apply here, right? Because Ilo Rivera kind of brought that issue up at the last minute to prevent developers from lobbying. So I want to thank Councilmember Ilo Rivera for, really trying to do what he can to bring affordable housing to all neighborhoods. And I think it's unfair to just say that developers that own, the council members. Us here tonight is a small sample demographically of the city, right? And I want to make sure that everybody's voices are being heard in this process. And a lot of the comments I hear tonight is coming from established homeowner perspective. I'm one of those myself. But let's try to think about how we can create more housing, which is badly needed for people of all income types. And I really, truly believe Councilmember Rivera is trying to do that, and it's a difficult path to navigate. Thanks.
Sure. I'm gonna piggyback on the comment and just say that, ask the question, is the building on church land still part of the package?
I don't know.
Okay, and then Joe.
Yeah.
That's
And that did happen.
okay.
Did you say bigger family housing? That's basically contradicting everything else passed. Like you're saying bigger family housing, right? Because we're still trying to put more people into the limited area of square footage, right? You can't make San Diego big, it's boundary lines. You can't create. When it comes to the demographics, I would say to contradict what you brought up, Mr. Paul, like, I'm a Hispanic woman, I wasn't even born in this country, and I'm a veteran, and I come from a low income background. So I disagree with your, comments on that, because with my background, I know exactly what it is that people with low income need and what they're looking for. So just because I now live in Normal Heights, doesn't mean that I am a middle class citizen that doesn't understand the lower class.
Okay, take your pick. We've got one online as well, Robert.
Sure, I'd like to ask, the council president, what is his plan and or what's the rest of the council's plan on the mayor's plan to provide the needed infrastructure, the additional density to the cause if we continue to give away, and allow developers to short the city treasury from what historically they have contributed, which is developer impact fees. The city is predicting the next 5 years budget shortage, and yet we were making it again cheaper for developers to make more profits by cutting back on developer impact fees, cutting back on providing parking. Where is the money going to come from for the additional parks and all the other infrastructure that the additional density would bring into the most densely packed portion of the city now? Where's the plan for that?
I can relay your question for sure.
Thank you.
We understand that you do not have the answers to these questions.
Yes.
And
I mean,
that
I
you
saw
are
the
a
pictures
conduit
ago.
to our council
Mhm.
person. So as such, we understand that,
Mhm.
and you'll have full access to the video recording for if you want to show your councilman the meeting, segments of it, or have access to a transcript. We have all of that for you.
I
So
appreciate that, and
just
I'm
wanna support
very
you
open
there.
to questions. Like I said, I just won't be able to answer you directly just because I'm educating myself as well. So, okay. Any other concerns? Yes.
Yeah.
There's a couple or three vacant lots around, in Normal Heights that, are vacant. And I was wondering if there are any plans, the ones on the end of this street on the north end, pretty spectacular. And I was wondering if anybody knows why they're still vacant with the housing shortage as it is. Now, I'm not talking specifically about low income housing, but I'm talking about single family unit, housing. Does anybody know why those two lots down there from the 85 fire are still vacant? And then there's one really challenging lot at the end of Ellison Place that would at least is buildable. But anybody know why they're not built?
Some of those properties you're mentioning are city owned, and those were determined that they were too much of a fire hazard, so the city took ownership of the land. And the question right now is what to do with that, if it's buildable or if it could be converted to a park. So a lot of those questions are on the table. But at the end of the day, it's people like you who come here that are going to influence that decision. I don't want to speak for you.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Like I said, I'll just relay all the questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take Robert. He's had his hand up on the Zoom call. Go ahead. Robert. We'll come back to Robert. Yes.
As we reduce the number of parking spaces and increase our population density, is there any plan to upgrade our transit system? Because, for example, my granddaughter just started at Mesa College. We thought, of course she can take the bus. 2 hours each way. That's not real. There needs to be more frequent, more dispersed transit available for people who don't have cars.
Is she from Normal Heights? Okay.
It's about 7 miles.
It takes 2 hours, a little bit short of 2 hours to get from Adams Avenue to the, Mission Valley.
Yeah.
Fremont, less than Fremont.
Yeah, the heuristic I've always had in my head living in San Diego this long is, if you're on the city grid, for transit's fine. Not great, not good, fine. If you're trying to leave the city grid, you have a problem.
Well, that's why I believe there's a cable car, maybe from Trolley Barn Park and Adams Avenue connecting to Mission Valley Center, and where the trolley station is, where the mall is. I think that would be enormously, well, a tram line, like an aerial gondola line connecting it to the trolley station. I think that would be tremendously beneficial for actually a very low cost.
Is there a conduit for these ideas?
A con?
A conduit? Is there a
Oh,
conduit? for it?
conduit.
Yeah, because I hear a lot of, I hear a lot of ideas in the room. I know that they're more complex than they appear at the surface. Gary can certainly attest to that.
Mhm.
But is there a, what, are we is our planning group the conduit for that to you?
I can ask and make sure, but I'm not.
Okay,
But like I said, I'm gonna watch a recording, send all the questions, and I can send them all the answers in an email.
sure. And this might actually be related to the CPC update that I'll have later on about the San Diego engagement program.
Okay.
Yes,
Would a suggestion, how to get a bus route? I was thinking if we had a bus that did a route like on Mountain View Drive, and just came around that, I'm sure you'd pick up a lot more customers than you are on just up there on 30th and Adams. Would a suggestion by this committee or the powers that be to the Metropolitan Transit System do any good to say, hey, why don't you put a bus down here?
I can let our policy team know.
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah,
Anything
Anything
else? News?
thanks for being patient with me. Again, I'm sorry I'm not able to answer your questions directly, but hopefully as I continue showing up to the meetings, I'll have more direct answers for you.
There you do, right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the mayor's office. If I don't see Lucera, is there another representative from the mayor's office? Okay. County supervisors removed until the election is completed. Senator Atkins' office. Not present, and Assembly Member Ward. I don't see any representative there. Next up is chair report, community planning. Yes.
I've actually been talking to Sarah Jacobs' office. If I.
Oh, Sarah Jacob, I will add, yes, thank you.
Yeah. My name is Michaela. I'm a staff assistant in Congresswoman Jacobs' office. I've been a staff member of series of our areas, so I have normal heights in my area, my portfolio. So you'll be seeing my face more regularly at these meetings. Just to give you a little report of what's going on out of our office. In Washington, DC, the House is in session, and Congresswoman Jacobs and her House colleagues will be voting on multiple pieces of legislation this week. Congresswoman Jacobs this week introduced a package of legislation, the Graduate Act, the Codifying Save Plan Act to help combat unaffordability facing American higher education. These legislation pieces would increase tax deduction for student loan payments and make permanent the SAVE plan, which is the most affordable European plan. And then in the district, the Congresswoman attended the 5th annual Kensington Holiday Food-Lighting to pick up the holiday season and spend time with the community. And then the Congresswoman also attended the Adams spiritual, really great in the district, spending time with small business owners, engaging with them in Saturday. In addition to that, our district team also attended Mama's Kitchen 31st annual Tree of Life ceremony, which commemorates World Food Day. Yes, I think that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. I also have to see my contact information.
Get a card.
I do. I have some of my.
Okay. Okay. Next up is chair report, Community Planners Committee, CPC, met just recently. The ad hoc subcommittee that was formed to interface with the grand jury has two missions. The first one is to write an opinion letter in response to the grand jury report on DIF, developer impact fees. That letter was drafted and approved and has been forwarded on to the mayor, city council, and the presiding judge over the grand jury, so it'll be read into the record. The subcommittee will meet again starting in January to assemble a complaint to be submitted to the grand jury for investigation, mainly concerning the city planning department. The contents of that are TBD. The other presentation at the Community Planners Committee was from the mobility department. They presented their mobility plan that they're working on. So this is a period for input and gathering information about their projections for creating a mobility plan, which will be part of the master plan. The other presentation was for San Diego engagement, which is gathering input from communities beyond just the community planning groups like us to use meetings, committees, polling. They're trying to get all different sources of input to get a broader section or broader view of what the population wants to see in their general plan.
I noticed Robert's
And one other, let's see who else has. Looks like, I think Robert's left his hand up. I'm going to lower his hand, and if he raises it again. And then Paul Jameson, you have a comment?
Yeah, what was the complaint with the plan, at least as much as you can say, with the planning department? I know there's an issue at Uptown Planners where some shenanigans around Matt Wallstrom getting back onto the board or something, and the planning department took an action to say, no, he shouldn't be. I haven't been following that story. Is that what it's about? And whatever part you can talk about, I guess.
Sure, I'll be clear that it's not about that. The board crafted a letter. I don't know the details of the Matt Wallstrom incident, but that letter was crafted before I started on the CPC, and it was approved and sent out. So I'm not sure what that letter contains. The subcommittee, though, in terms of the planning department, is looking at inconsistencies in the planning department that are leading to issues where there's inconsistencies in how the rules are being applied, and it hurts both the community and the developers.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that was the same complaint they made in Uptown Planners, is that you're applying the rules differently to different groups. So that's why I confused the two. Thanks.
Yes. Oh yeah, tenure. So Sammy just joined us on the board, and she will be taking Emily Cannon's seat. April of 24 will be the renewal period, and at that point we'll be up for general election. At this point, you're in an appointed seat, and we have several appointed seats available, I think. We'll have I guess Taylor's seat also renews in April 24, and then Jim's seat. So we have 3 appointable seats right now.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to be on the board, but I am on the board because you need to have 12 when carried over the 8-year limit. So as soon as you get up to 12, You really should drop them. Actually, when you get up to 13. Our minimum is 12, max 15.
Minimum 12, okay, then we really gotta,
More members?
we're looking at you.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we just heard it, yes. And actually, you've attended twice, so you're fully qualified. Our committee can get you the information for application. Which I think is Jim, and.
And do we have to, make sure I get the agenda, do we have to notice it for a meeting, like we notice everything else to, internal appointment?
That I'm not sure.
We have a vacancy, we can fill it.
Okay,
But do they have to be noticed, or can you? We've been under max for a year and a half. There are vacancies continuing. We do have an election, so we renew people. My understanding, and I look at the bylaws more closely, this board can add qualified members at any time.
I would suggest, if there's a concern that it should be on the agenda, let's just have a standard agenda item. For, adding board members. Okay,
Maybe we should look at our bylaws, because Carolyn, who used to be here as our parliamentarian, would quote like what they say. I'm pretty sure they say something about interim appointment. Yep.
okay, I will add, the standing item to the agenda for appointment of new members. And in the meantime, we'll work with Joe on getting the application submitted, which is very easy. I think it's like 4 questions. Like, do you live here? Are you over 18?
Yeah, buy me a beer.
And I'll pay for it. That's how we roll. Okay.
I think I might have been through.
I'm cheap.
Next up, Adams Avenue Business Association.
Okay. Once again, my name is Scott Ketzler. We held the Spirit Stroll November 25th. We sold out tickets for the Spirit Stroll for the 8th year in a row. This association does quarterly events on Adams Avenue to promote the area. The Spirit Stroll is part of the National Small Business Saturday celebration, so we get people to attend and shop locally by giving them a fun activity, drinking little spirit samples up and down the avenue. Before we did this, we couldn't really get people here on Small Business Saturday, so it's working. We got the holiday tree lit the day before Spirit Stroll. The Business Association's run that 5 years ago. So this year, there's a life of work. We're hoping we can stretch it out to 10. Each year we have to upgrade the wires and fix anything that was wrong. We did that the week before the event. We have our next holiday event on December 10th. We pass out flyers to people at the tables. Snow day, so we have snow up in the Kensington Park, 9 tons of snow. We're bringing Santa Claus this year. Santa's missed the event with COVID because it was a bad mix to have little kids sitting on old Santa's lap. And this is the first year we felt we take steps to bring that back. And we have a hot chocolate provided, a 3-hour event. We usually have 300 or 400 kids there. It's crazy. If you've never been there before, it's a lot of fun. We're planning to put some new street banners on our lampposts in January. We leave them up for about 3 years, and we're designing them right now. So we also on Thanksgiving weekend, we hung red garland on 150 lampposts up and down Adams Avenue, 2.5 miles. And we had not done that since COVID as well, I think. We just got permission from the city to replace 70 street trees in Kensington. We applied in March for permit. We have 70 disease evergreen pear trees down there. Have been suffering from this bacteria blight or something. We tried everything, and $5,000 for the candles, something oil didn't work. Anyway, so We have 3 different species going in, to replace those trees. It's to be done in 2 phases. It'll take, a year and a half to complete. And the last thing is the annual breakfast meeting for the Adams Business Association, where anyone is invited, is set for February 7th at the Bar, which is the new restaurant that opened in the place where the Star Bar was. $10 breakfast bar, and that's where we elect our board of directors annually. So at 8 in the morning at the Star, watch our at the 5, and we'll have notices as we get closer on our social media. So if you want to attend, great, it's very informal. You get to meet them, but we have 80, 90 business owners who come to us, and a lot of community members. So everyone here is invited to that. That's my report.
I have a quick question for you. Adams Avenue Business Association, does it extend all of Adams Avenue?
Yes, yes, we extend 5 blocks past the 15, 5 blocks into Kensington, and then all the way down to basically Arizona.
Okay.
So it's 2.5 miles, and it comprises 3 planning groups and 2 council districts at this point. Yeah, it's always it's the business association has always kind of served University Heights, Normal Heights, and Kensington. And sometimes, we do things that are adding widening those Normal Heights, and so that's where we're talking about.
Yeah.
You were talking spiritual. Are you talking St. Didacus or Ken Club?
Here, I was talking Spirit Stroll, which is an event that we did 10 days ago.
No, it's Ken Club.
Talking alcohol. We had, it's
Right. Ken Club, that's where they serve alcohol.
exactly.
Good place.
Well, we actually served the cocktails inside the retail establishments. We had bartenders from the restaurants and bars that served the cocktail taste inside the retailer.
This is Las Vegas, you can't have it on the street, so I understand.
Yes.
I want to thank the Business Association for putting up the lights on the freeway overpasses. Great thing. Has the Monroe pedestrian bridge been included in those that are lit?
On the 805 or 15? No, it hasn't. And the 15 is, so the 3 bids in the city do the 805 bridge. The 15 is done by 2 other groups. One that's Seaford in Kensington that does that bridge, and then there's been talk about getting me involved, included, and I think we had PDC, the Delphone and the University had bridge.
So it's kind of spread.
Yeah, we have a couchman permit. Gary, I just met with Gary, he's one of the founders of the light. We just had a 35th anniversary of the lighting of the bridge deck. We all met at Delphone Bridge office a week ago. And talked to each other.
Their celebration, I'm not sure exactly when it is happening or if it's about.
Gary, who does the I-15 bridge decks on Elkhorn and University?
That was, the city high speed.
Yeah, okay.
CDC does the university and the boulevard does.
So this started in 1988 with the lighting of the Adams Avenue Bridge. We did for a few years, and then it kind of spread throughout the Mississippi.
So if we wanted the Monroe pedestrian bridge lit, we'd need an organization to sponsor that and pay for it.
Yes, and yes.
And they kind of do it on their own.
No, we are all working together.
You think that as we're going on.
And I brought it up last year, they didn't have it.
Yeah, we brought it up a week ago. We're looking for someone to do that.
Good.
Not this year, though.
Okay, I'll wait.
Sure. Next up is Oklahoma Boulevard Business Improvement Association. Gary?
That's pretty much what's been going on for the last month or so. Jackie O'Connor, who's been involved with that association since born some 40 years ago, has been pushing for some recognition The great thing about it now is no one knows where it came from and no one knows where it's going. It kind of appears that it's someone who goes away. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the two bridges left to get to 15 to do 5 done, but there have been bridges on the 94. There's one on the road going in. And so there's nothing except the other bridge in the county. And one left. You're right. It's something where the power is low. It's probably
Outside of Adams, I was off tonight. So that happened. Now we have to go fix it.
that happens every once in a while, especially in the rainstorms. And they get fixed in miraculous ways. So far, no one has been electrocuted. And we've shared the electricity with the population of individuals that have lived in there for decades. It's all worked out just nice.
Okay. That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Normal Heights Community Association and Urban Arts, do we have representatives here? Okay, and then, recreation.
Can I say something about urban arts? I just.
Yeah, you have information, yeah.
Ken and Dennis, last weekend, so the mosaic mural kaleidoscope of butterflies is on track to be installed on the 35th Street Park and Rec building in February. They have, I believe, 8 of 11 panels complete. It's 18 feet long to be beautiful.
So thank you. Adams Community Recreation Advisory Group, Nancy, Jim?
Hi, I'm going to report to Nancy. I'm the new chair. 2 things. One, thank you for loaning the OWL telecommunication device. I set it up so people can participate in their recreation group via teleconference. Sarah, I'm doing that. Works great. So thank you for the loan. If the group ever gets some money and continues to use it, we'll often pay a third of the cost that the Adams Business Association is looking for that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I sent the members of the planning group and Sarah and some others kind of a complaint and request for information about the changes to the general development plan for the expansion of Ward Canyon Park. You all may remember that Ward Canyon Park is due to be expanded to the southeast to take over the blacktop area that's being used for staging area for construction. The idea is to put in a expanded dog park and a community garden as well as some other amenities. We heard in October kind of a informal notice that Caltrans had apparently reneged on the proposal to change the reconfiguration of the on-ramp, which would mean that the park space plan would be reduced and the dog park and maybe some other amenities would have to be excluded from the park. We're not very happy about that and asking for information in more detail and to get the community involved in any of the decisions that are made about whether, how much, and what gets changed if the space is reduced. So I sent a letter to Park, email to Park and Rec, copied the council member, and hope to get some details about just exactly what Caltrans has told the city they're not going to do and what options the city might pursue in order to retain and expand zoning development. And I'd appreciate at some point, the planning group chiming in also with a complaint, but at this point, it's just a complaint about lack of information. We can't really say bad because we don't know what's going on. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
So actually,
No, I don't have any answer.
I just want to let you know that I will be speaking to a member of our policy team about your email and give you an update, please.
Thank you very much.
Where is Roy's Canyon?
Adams Avenue and 30th Street.
Adams Avenue and
Oh, okay. Freeway, yeah, on the right-hand side, you'll see a playground, and behind that is a park area.
Yeah.
To the southeast is a roadway, Fournier Street, which has been closed off for several years for through traffic. One of the concerns Gary raised is that, you don't know, Caltrans may be wanting to open the closed roadway section and allow people to use that as a shortcut to the freeway, which many of the residents have been adamant. So we're mad at hell, but we don't know about what.
Francis.
Tim, I don't know if I imagine this, but I thought it was, the mock building was finally gonna be demolished. Mock building was finally going to be demolished.
Yeah.
Fort Canyon,
Yeah.
but then there was gonna be another building where that is.
No,
No,
the,
because I always understood that was gonna be like an entrance. To the
well, that too is up in the air. The general development plan has that mock building be demolished and expanding the park space. And hopefully the playground area and fence up to that corner. But the planner that responded to our questions about the changes that Caltrans has apparently proposed said something about a new building. And that threw us all off. We don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So right now we have a bunch of questions and we would like some answers.
They're talking about, we're buying the basketball courts, they're gonna have, recreation.
Yes,
That was the-
that's part of the general development.
And the thing is, when I was going to the Adams Avenue Rec meeting, over there where they play the softball, and the baseball, and the Little League, there was 11 loose dogs in there, and that was our new dog park.
Unofficial and illegal.
Right, and I went over to several of them, and I told them, you know, I said, there's a important meeting at the rec, at Avenue Rec tonight about the dog park issue. It's very important, you need to go. None of those people are even got online, never showed up. And then also at the mock building, there's a guy there that's been spending, well, first the rec center, Adams Avenue Rec, there's a man that every time we have a meeting, he's still there, he's still homeless, and he sleeps on the ground over there, and there's signs all over saying no camping. Nobody's supposed to be sleeping over there. He's still there. And then over in the mock building, there's a new guy over there that's staying over there in front of the mock building. It used to be the old former police.
The police representative who attends the recreation committee meeting is well aware and has encouraged us to use the non-emergency police number or the Get It Done app to report illegal parking and camping, and that's probably the best we can do, other than going over there and hassling a person, which I do not recommend.
I've been doing several polytime. 3 at the rec building, and driving the rec, I've done the Ward Canyons one several times. And there's a new one over at the new park, across the street from the park on Orange and Central. And the guys there all the time, they give him away, they take him moving, and he's back there again. He ties the tarp through the, you know, the bridges, and those spots there, he ties his tarp there, and nobody can get through there. Nobody can transport through them.
I have a hand raised online, Paul Jameson.
Yeah, I'm disappointed to hear about Caltrans not doing what they said they would do regarding the park and the reconfiguration. Just some context, it seems like there's some changes at Caltrans that are being fought against pretty hard. They're trying to change the agency into, you know, not just designing streets and roads and freeways for cars, but also for people who are walking and people who are biking. But some fairly high level people have left Caltrans or been fired for trying to make those changes. And I just keep seeing things on the ground where they're prioritizing motorist convenience especially if they want to add this new connection to the freeway. And it really has an impact. You know, they continue to widen freeways, that just induces more demand, which results in more emissions and more climate change. So we've got a real problem at Caltrans, and I don't know how to change it. The people at the local Caltrans district seem pretty good when I've talked to them, but I'm just disappointed to hear, you know, continued stories about this where they're sort of turning their backs on anyone but motorists and convenience. And I drive too. I don't like sitting in traffic, but there needs to be a better balance. Thanks.
Thank you. Scott?
I just want to comment about the park. We had PD rep at our meeting this morning. And I just wanted to say that I think there's been remarkable progress on our Adams parks, and the police have a different MO right now because of the unsafe camping ordinance. There were 2 individuals that lived at 35th and Adams, one for 3 years, another one for a year and a half, and they've been relocated to Ward Canyon. But, you know, and Aubrey, who you mentioned, who's sleeping at the park, the police have talked to him. And so it is, you know, there's no final solution that's really, you know, people are not receiving a home or somewhere to stay. But the little tiny park that, you know, everyone in the community is supposed to have the opportunity to enjoy it is open again, and I think people sitting there and it's really powerful. So I just, you know, we've been thanking the police been thanking the business association, the property owners, the people that are putting to get it done at, and the ordinance is actually, you know, helped Adams Avenue. I'm not, again, it's not solving the problem, but it has helped this small community gain a little park space for use for more people.
Yeah, they had the police were out there a week or so ago in front of where the butterfly, the entrance. And they were up there taking somebody to move on.
Yeah, they moved, well, because normally when it rains, you know, people are like, oh, well, now we can use that, but the police moved them out during the rain last.
Okay. Next up is Normal Heights for Smart Growth. I'll change hats very quickly and say we'll put out the newsletter this week with a link to the poll to gather more input up from the community on their vision for what infrastructure and building and smart growth should be in the future. I'm also working with getting that poll results integrated with the engagement San Diego, because they're also trying to do polls and get more information from the community. And they did say that they would try to integrate that the 2 data sets, but we'll see when we get there. Any questions?
Is there a way to find a list of the developers in the city for like the last year or so, like who the developers were that created all these buildings? And
That is-
are gonna create the future buildings?
That is a really good data mining question.
No, okay, yeah.
Sorry, I was coding some Python in my head.
Good job,
Well, I'm sure that there's probably a builders association that has a directory. That's
Within the city of San Diego, you could go through Development Services Department, so they issue the permits, and it's all public record, who's building what. I mean, right?
just to some degree. Sometimes it's hard to find out who the company is that
It's owned by.
yeah, let's say permit that's submitted by, and it'll have like a name, but then you have to go and do the research on the DBA or the corporate filings and all that.
Understanding that they supply a lot of jobs, right? So that's the one major benefit, honestly, that I see to all the skyscrapers, right? But, like, who's getting the profit at the long run? Is it a local company, or is it the dude overseas that no one loves?
It is a wide range, a wide range. Next up is the standing committees, Joint Mid-City Community Plan Update Committee. That's a mouthful. This would be, let's see,
I'm on that committee, what do you want to know? We haven't met, have we?
I think there's, you guys are working on a mission statement or something,
It's next, Wednesday, 13th,
Wednesday, the 13th, okay.
at 5 at the Elkhorn Boulevard office.
Okay, so this is a long-term project,
Year.
yeah. It seems that the city graded the community plans for some other neighborhoods fairly quickly. Like Claremont, I think Claremont Mesa was maybe a year in process.
At least a year, one or two.
Yeah.
Need to be on board, to be ready.
Okay,
Create a plan, I don't know, I mean, historically, it takes 4 or 5 years, so I don't know how they can do it in a year, but maybe.
maybe it's my own perception. Okay, I guess, yeah, Paul.
Sorry to break in again here. The last time I attended this planning group meeting, you said that the number of units that could be built, in the mid-city planning update would be decided, when that plan is done, in 3 years, I think it was. But again, we have this state requirement to build 108,000 units by 2029. So, and we're already well behind. So we need to build something like 16,000 units a year now in the city. What can we do in the meantime? It seems like each development that's proposed is opposed, like the Mars project. I don't see a whole ton of new construction in Normal Heights. We've had some, yes, in the past few years, but over, say, the past 30 years, there's been not a lot. And it's the same way in my neighborhood. I mean, Kensington is much worse, actually. So what is, I guess in the meantime, Normal Heights for smart growth? How would you meet the number of 3,000 units for Normal Heights by 2029? I'm just trying to throw numbers out there. It seems like these planning meetings are mostly about how we oppose all these new projects. I don't hear any way that we're going to do what we're required to do by the state.
Sure. I'll address your question. I can't really speak for Normal Heights for smart growth, but from my own perspective, I do see that we have some available land. There's an empty lot on Adams Avenue across from the subway. There's the flat parking lots at Rite Aid and Vaughn's, and I believe construction has been proposed in the past for both of those properties, mixed use at the Vaughn's, and I believe a library at the Rite Aid before Rite Aid had moved in when it was still a grocery store. So there is some history of wanting to build. I'm not sure why those projects fell through.
Maybe the parking minimums. Sorry, I just had to stick that in there. Yeah. But again, if you're going to build 100 units under the old rules, you had to build 200 parking spaces if, say, they were 2 bedrooms. And what happened was, especially for smaller lots, there just wasn't enough space to build all of that. You had to go underground. Underground spaces cost what, 25 to 50,000 each, and the projects just don't pencil out. So I think that parking requirements have played a role in this lack of new housing, which has contributed to the affordable housing crisis. So anyway, I'm just, maybe there could be a future discussion item at this planning group of what do we think is a reasonable number of new units for Normal Heights, and how would we get there? Because again, this is a planning group, right? Isn't that something that should be discussed? Isn't that the overarching or most important issue right now, planning wise? And maybe that's presumptuous to say.
Yes, Joe.
Mr. Jameson, this is Joe again. I'm the one that responded to you maybe 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get to know the city of San Diego. I'm starting to be involved maybe a few months ago, right? So I have a lot to learn. I'll say that. I won't deny that or pretend like I know a bunch of stuff. But one thing I do believe is there needs to be a devil's advocate, right? So we can't just go by the plan because the city or the state wants us to do something, because this city is not the same as the rest of the state, right? And the state itself isn't the same as the rest of the country. So we are living in a very particular and very specific bubble that we need to now find the to try to find the solution to, or the many solutions to fixing our local problems, right? To something that might have happened in the past, but most likely hasn't, right? Because we didn't go through COVID where prices of lumber doubled right within 6 months. So we understood why the housing market doubled, right, for houses during that time. But the percentage that rent and homes are going year over year does not match now, even the current inflation, because the CPI does not compare to what it was during COVID, right? So you can't use that comparison to you can't use parking as the reason why housing, or we have an issue with housing, right? It's the cost in general. And it's the cost, the benefit that these organizations that are most likely not from our state or not from our city are benefiting, and we on the long run are the ones that are hurting. So that's why I'm opposing, because it's not fair to me as the homeowner in Normal Heights. I'm lucky because I'm a veteran, so I use the VA loan to be able to purchase a home here. But my friends that are locals that have lived here all their lives and are in their 30s, just like I am, they don't even consider it every time we have the conversation, right? Because it's unattainable for them, even if they own their own business, even if they're a dentist. My neighbor can be a dentist. That will never happen in any other state, right? The dentists live where the rich people live, but not in San Diego. They live in your regular day-to-day community. And in regards to displacement, I listened to a short not article. I was listening to KPBS, the radio station yesterday. Yes, I listened to the radio film. And the displacement rate right now, so for every 10 people in the city of San Diego renting, there's 13 that are moving out. So basically that leaves you 33% roughly of your tenants, of those renters within our states being displaced. So even in this room, that's 1 out of 3, right? That's a huge number. So creating the homes isn't the issue, because there's plenty of lots, like for example, like you said, Kensington, those lots are massive. And if you compare those to Normal Heights, you can probably break a lot of a house, maybe at least into 2, maybe into 3. So the area is there. Why do I
Yeah,
have to
but
create
in Kensington, there's a push to make the whole neighborhood a historic district, which would prevent any changes. So you wouldn't be able to add any housing. So that's kind of what we're up against, right? There's a lot of people who want to keep things the way they are, which I get, but it's that lack of new inventory. I'll let you go chime in.
And again, I was just saying, my whole point is that there has to be a rebuttal, right, to the policies and the plans that are in place or are starting to become what's going to be in place, because then you're not taking into account your people that actually matter, which are the 99% of the humans that are walking through Normal Heights that are sitting in this room or throughout our city that don't even know that things like this happen. Because I just learned about it because Chris, Assemblyman Chris put a flag in my mailbox a few months ago, and I went to that, and then somebody told me that there's planning groups, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me check that out, and here I am. And I've lived in this neighborhood about 4 blocks down for 3 years.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to the next item, because that's.
I would like to just mention one practical thing. The statistic that you mentioned does not include people who also move in. It only counts people who move out. So that's not a net plus. Just as a factual thing.
Dan, for historic property review.
I didn't see any of the addresses listed on the site. Qualifying for any sort of review by the historical resources board.
Okay. How often does the city update the list?
It's weekly,
Okay,
at least twice a month.
okay. So Dan has been watching the city's website for postings of properties that are up for historical review and then seeing if any of them land within Normal Heights. So currently the answer is no. But he's watching that list. I've worked with him to help map out where they are, because the property addresses are listed, but it doesn't say what community they're in. So you have to actually enter each one into Google Maps to find out if it's actually in Normal Heights.
Now, bear in mind that there will be a number of addresses listed, but when you look at the site itself, some of the buildings just don't fall into the category of potentially historic.
Right. Yes.
I'd like to remind everybody that we have standing committees to discuss and explore and learn, and then bring recommendations to the committee. And as much as this is a public open forum, we're usually not set up to go into the detail that's necessary to get these things resolved. So I recommend read the mid-city community plan that's in place now. It's available online. The city is hiring consultants and planning to provide our help to update that plan. And that's. Does that make sense?
That was the brief that we got last month.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rather than, debating it here without a formal plan. So if we look at what exists and come up with ideas about how we'd like it to change and the constraints either imposed by the state, federal, or local government that we have to live under as well, then we are better able to make a decision. Rather than discussing them. As much as I like to hear from everyone.
Thank you. Utility undergrounding. Francis, any updates?
There is a letter, Jim looked for too, just saying, indicating that happening in a big way, upcoming month.
Any indication about stub outs or lighting?
No.
Okay.
The notice came to homeowners on one of them in the northeast corner of Normal Heights. That's due to start the undergrounding process. And they warned property owners to sign off on the right of entry so that we can get the overhead wires done underground. I asked when I circulated the information about that to the planning group, I reminded the folks that are involved in that committee that we want to make sure that when they go forward, they live up to the plan to do stub outs for additional lighting. So that when and if we get an assessment district sufficient to pay for the additional lighting, we get that lighting in without having to re-deep. Yeah, Becca, there's also the decision about what kind of lights to go in, which as far as we know, is not a done deal. We either get the Cobra lights like you see at the corners now, or hopefully we get something ornamental like you see along Adams Avenue.
Okay. Next up, Caltrans grant submission. This was for a community garden. The grant was not given by Caltrans, but the effort remains being pushed through. The Selby team is still committed to providing the 50% funding, which was $5,000. So we're currently trying to raise money in the community. And I believe we still want this group attached to the project. Okay. We're good with staying attached to the project, even though Caltrans is not involved. Okay. DEI program, I think that's in progress. We need to be at point.
No, unless they come back and say no.
Because we've
Committed, right?
Right, we've submitted, so I think we can actually dissolve the committee. Since DEI program is now part of our everyday operations and is also part of the submission for reapproval by the city.
So is there a timeline on the city approving our plan?
In January. Right now, 3 of the groups have submitted. We were not the first, but we were in the first 3.
Great.
Pretty good. Congratulations, Paul.
Can I clarify to see what the DEI and.
Yes, We have, the documents are on the website, and I'll make sure you get a link and also access to the website for making changes, and, Google Drive.
Yeah. Someone would be,
I would do that.
all right.
Okay. Does anyone in the room need to know what DEI is? Yes, okay, it is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a way of making sure that we have a level playing field and that we are also representing our community. Normal Heights is unique in San Diego, almost at San Francisco, in that we are the most representative community in the entire county. We have people from all walks of life in this neighborhood, to the degree where scientific studies often do polls in our neighborhood because they know they can get a good cross section for the county.
Do we have to formally vote for this all committee or is this like?
It's a good question.
Do we have to vote to dissolve committees or are they just? Can we will them to the chair?
It's gone.
It is will.
It is, yeah, make it so. There's tree replacements. I don't believe there's any new information on that. The USDA is supposed to give the city 8,000 trees, but I don't have a timeline on that. If you hear anything about trees, we would like half of them.
Yeah. The top half.
Scott made it 3/4. Traffic issue task force.
Okay, an update on the update I provided last month. I heard additional, over a year ago, we sent a letter to the city with a lot of descriptions of locations that have traffic issues, traffic safety issues, and we've heard back now on all of them. And so in addition to what we heard back last month, they have either added or will be adding pedestrian lead indicators, I think they're called. It's where if you press the button to cross the street on Adams Avenue, you get 5 seconds into the crosswalk. So people who are turning can see, oh, there's somebody in the crosswalk, and then I'll just avoid that. So they've already put it in at 35th and Adams. They put one in at 35th and El Cajon Boulevard. I just noticed that like this week. And they put one in at Adams and Felton. There was already one at Adams and Cherokee, and they plan to put one in at Adams and 32nd. They're also going to be painting crosswalks so that you can actually see it. So improvements.
Thank you. John. Yeah.
City put in speed limit signs on North Mountain View. 25 mile an hour. And almost every one of them is hidden behind a tree and you can't see it, but it's right there.
Use the Get It Done app. I recommend that. Just seriously, if it's a branch, they will come out and cut the branch down. I've done that. The one there, it's right by mine.
The tree is there, and then the next quarter block has nothing.
There's probably a blueprint with a measurement. Yes.
Does anybody have any idea if the city in their wisdom has any plans to smooth out, North Mountain View to West Mountain View Drive on the big loop around Litchfield? That's like you might as well be going off-road when you're coming around that big curve at the end of, Mountain View.
There is a paving plan, where there's a paving plan, and I believe that's available online. It shows a map of the severity of the different streets in their condition. And then the schedule to which they are repaved or repaired that's actually a mystery to me. But they do have a ratings map that shows the progress that they're doing.
And that's on the,
It's on the city's website. We're finding it might be difficult,
all right, thank
but
you.
yeah. Maybe that's something we can find a link, and if we find a link, we'll put it on our website. Yes.
President, we look into that. curve that I was talking to you about it, right? East Mountain View Drive. It's in an alley and there's no ADA
Oh,
across there.
okay. And it's what's the location?
It's like, this is Maddie's, this is East Mountain View Drive, there's Maddie's and then a place here.
Oh, I know it, yes, yes.
There's an alley. And then there's another group of houses, and it's right there where that alley is, there's no way to cross, it's just curb, and then the alley and a curb, and there's no ADA accessible. So my husband, you know, we take our scooters there, and mobility scooters, we can't go that way, get across. Let's go out into the street.
I will, I'll identify the location and send that to Sarah. And that'll probably be, I'm not sure if that would be a get it done because it's sort of larger than a get it done.
You can submit, I think, another service request online, but I can send you the link.
Okay, there's a thing for curb ramps. There is, okay.
On the sidewalks, is it, are the owner to pay part of it, or is there a new program out now?
Yeah, there is a new updated policy on the sidewalks. I can send you the link, the updated information, and then probably you can send that out as well. But yeah, it's usually that the homeowners are responsible for the maintenance of the sidewalk. But now it's been changed a little bit, and they're going to start prioritizing low income neighborhoods. To help funding for the relief of sidewalk. Again, I can get you more clear language on that.
It's like right across the street from Normal Heights Elementary School, and there's my apartment, the next apartment, and then the house. And then once there, the sidewalk is what kind of. But, you know, it's needs to be fixed, I know. And I'm not gonna, they're going to find that or whatever.
Okay, Rainey has a question.
Actually, not a question. I just want to say I was able to find that map. I shocked myself. I was able to find it. And for West Mountain View, they're looking at construction in March of 2026.
So there you go. Plenty of time to serve cake. Okay. Sure. Scott.
We're kind of on this subject, since they're known from the city to announce, people might have noticed that there's a company, West Coast Arbors, that's trimming all the trees in Normal Heights. That's a city contract, every 2 years right now, the deciduous trees, non-palm trees are out trimming. So you'll see they've had crews in the neighborhood for about 3 to 4 weeks. They're going up north and south street, east and west street, so I think they have about 2 months left in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know where they are now? Because they have to total the street.
They jump for every single day. They're, you know, you see their signs go up here and here. Yeah, there's no.
Free cone. Free cone. Yeah. Put it on buy nothing.
Yeah.
Did we skip over the nominating committee?
We did.
Okay, I would like to suggest that Greg Stone, you and I review the bylaws for the opportunities to add people in between election time and the potential of getting on the agenda, a standing request. And Scott did. Okay,
Agreed. And the last item on here is the community engagement poll, which I addressed earlier under the Normal Heights for Smart Growth. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Help us with the chair.